Hello, everyone. So, the book I read this week was Coraline, and I really enjoyed it. And as far as the Six Motives of Fantasy books, Caroline did have aspects of magic because the other mother was able to distort the world into things that she wished that they looked like. She changed what the other house looked like, what the other garden looked like. She was able to change what the father looked like. She was able to change what she looked like. And that shows that she had magical powers. And the book also had a secondary world, which clearly was the other world that Coraline stumbled onto. And this world was similar to the real world, but with significant changes because of how the other mother distorted it. It definitely included good and evil as Coraline battled against the other mother. And in this book, we see the aspect of heroism as Coraline fights against the odds to save her parents, herself, and the three children that were trapped inside the other world. I think that the other mother was a special character type because she was able to distort things, and as the story continued, she became less and less human and more undescribable. And so it was almost like the author had created this being that had never really been thought of before. And the biggest fantastic object was the rock that Coraline had that helped her find all the souls in the other world, because without it, she just would have been stuck there. She wouldn't have been able to find it. And that shows that that object was, in fact, magical and helped her. And because this book has all of these motives, then it should be classified as a fantasy book. I think that Coraline has been classified as a horror book because it has all the aspects that the article A New Era of Gothic Literature described, such as the scary setting being remote as the other world was. There's no even clue on where exactly it is. She walked through a door inside her house and upon it. We don't know where it is. In this world, it also says that sometimes they're wet, and Coraline continuously described the fog like mist, but making everything damp and cold. And the young innocent hero in this story is obviously Coraline, as she rescues those trapped from the other world. The villain in this is obviously the other mother, as she tries to cheat and trap Coraline in this world, and so buttons into her eyes just as she did with the other children. In this book, the social taboo that I saw was a child kind of generally being ignored by her parents, and thus being lured to find something else, but accidentally stumbling on something much worse. And I think that that kind of goes towards hey, be careful, watch your kids, because if they think that you don't love them, or just think that you're not giving them much attention, they're gonna look for it somewhere else. And that's just such a scary thought in my eyes, because having children go to someone else that they don't know looking for that just brings about so much danger in the world. And then this book definitely results in an emotional state of fear as you sit on the side of your seat wondering if Coraline is ever going to escape back to where she belongs. So the world that the other mother created truly represents what Coraline truly wanted, because this world represents that Caroline wanted a place that was more alive and beautiful to explore, instead of the overgrown garden and the dusty flats. Because as she went in, yes, it was darker, but it wasn't as crazy, overgrown as the real world. And I think that this is typical of most heroes in children's literature, because the heroine longs for something more beautiful and extravagant and just more than what they already have. And I think that the house in this story serves as a metaphor for finding self, because as Coraline explores, she gets deeper inside the grounds, looking for how this place used to be beautiful. We do this as we search inside ourselves, looking for who we used to be. Coraline is at an age where she no longer plays with dolls and things such as that, and so she longs but she has to figure out who she is now that she is older. Looking at the now overgrown house and looking at the surroundings grungy or uninteresting, it is showing that as we grow, we get confused on how we may now seem uninterested in the things that once interest us, and thus kind of changing our personality and losing maybe possibly some of our friends. But as we explore further, we realize that we now just have a different point of view on what is interesting, and the things that may have seemed uninteresting to us when we were younger are now beautiful and the most amazing things to discover. The other mother is compared to a spider because of her long, stretchy features, such as her fingers. And in fact, at the end of the novel, her hand comes in searching for the key, and it's even described in the book that it's like a spider running around on the ground, and it peeks up and it runs away, and it just every time that her hand was brought up, it just reminded me of what a spider was. And I think this is a very appropriate comparison, also because she creates like the other world just almost out of nothing, and she distorts it almost like like a spider would create its web. I also think that Gaiman is suggesting that names are simply just a title and a way to differentiate from each other, because it's just a way to differentiate me from someone else. But when you truly think about our names, they can easily be changed, or you can wish to be called something else. So many of us are called by nicknames. We're not even called by our actual names, and sometimes they're completely different from the name that we were given. And sometimes you change your names because it just truly does not fit what personality you have. I think that he also suggests that names are less memorable than actions, so your name does not define who you are, but what you do shows the world exactly who you are and who you want to be. Thank you, guys.